Still going on. Okay, you are live now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to share. Okay, Prabhu, you can sing now.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yamunatira Yamunatira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Ya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharidhari Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjanam Shodanandana Rajajanaranjanam Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtadharshata Srimad Abhayacharana Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Acharya Ashtadharshata Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। श्री मधुरा धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। मायापुर धाम की जय। गंगामयी की जय। जमुनामयी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Guru and Gauranga. How can you put the Mangalacharan prayers? Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshurun Militam Yena तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललितां श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरां शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्दां। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Can I start, Prabhu, now?
Yes, Prabhu, sure. You can share and
So let me share. I'm sharing the entire screen. Welcome everybody to the Wednesday's lecture, online class. The topic I have chosen today is 3 modes of material nature. So basically, this subject has been extensively been described in chapter 14th of Bhagavad Gita and also Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto 25th chapter. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna spoke to Arjuna about these 3 modes of material nature. Basically, the 3 modes of material nature are Satogun, Rajogun and Tamogun. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, the same topic has been described by Krishna or narrated by Krishna to Uddhava in a little bit more deeper. So I have some attachment for Bhagavatam and I regularly read it and it is easier to understand. So I will focus more on Srimad Bhagavatam. It is in chapter, it is in 11th canto and 25th chapter. So before we start, let's sing the invocation prayers to Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shrunvatam Swakata Krishnam Punyashravana Kirtanam Hridyantasto hi abhadrani Vidnoti Suhrutsatam Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18th, and in verse 40, Krishna says, there is no being existing either here or among the demigods in higher planetary systems which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. So everybody in this material world may be in higher planetary systems or in the middle planetary systems or in lower planetary systems. Everybody is under the influence of these three modes of material nature. So as you can see from this figure, these three modes are like ropes, and they constantly pull and push the living entity in multiple directions. Just like a puppet in a puppet show is controlled by the puppet master behind the scenes, we, the living entities, are always controlled and influenced by these three modes. And in 11th canto, chapter 25, in verses 2 to 5, Krishna is giving a summary of these three modes. He says, Samodhamas titiksheksha tapaha satyam daya smriti tushtisthyago aspruha shraddha hrir daya adi swanirvitihi kamahiha madastrishnam stamba asir vidasukam madutsaho yashaha pritir hasyam viryam balodhyama क्रोधो लोभो अनृतम हिंसा याचना दंभ क्लमक्कली शोकमोहौ विषदार्दी निद्रासाभिर अनुद्यमः सत्वस्य रजसश्चैतस तमसश्चानु प्रवशा वृत्तयो वर्णितः प्राय सन्निपातम अतः शृणु. So Krishna is saying, mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination, sticking to one's prescribed duty, truthfulness, mercy, careful study of the past and future, satisfaction in any condition, generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master, being embarrassed at improper action, charity, simplicity, humbleness, and satisfaction within oneself are qualities of the mode of goodness. Here we can see truthfulness. One must be truthful, one must be merciful, and one must be know past, present, and future. One must carefully study past and future. We can also use the word trikalagnya. Satisfaction in any condition. This is also very important. Sometimes we are put into miserable conditions, and when it happens, we lose satisfaction. But person in mode of goodness, he is able to feel satisfaction in any condition. And also in spiritual master, faith in the spiritual master is also important. And then charity, whatever we can give, we should give. And simplicity, humbleness, and satisfaction within oneself are the qualities of mode of goodness. Satisfaction within oneself, there is a Sanskrit word called Atmarama. Atmaramascha munayor nirgrandhi api urukrama kurvanti hahetka bhaktim itam bhuto gunohari. So he is self-satisfied. The Atmarama is self-satisfied. So the Atmarama also comes under the mode of goodness. Now let us see how mode of passion exhibits. Material desire, great endeavor, audacity, dissatisfaction even in gain, false pride, praying for material advancement, considering oneself different and better than others, sense gratification, rash eagerness to fight, a fondness for hearing oneself praised, the tendency to ridicule others, advertising one's own prowess, and justifying one's action by one's strength are qualities of the mode of passion. We can see this in the current civilization. Most of the people are operated under the mode of material, under the mode of passion. Here, some of the qualities is that false pride. We often compare ourselves to others, and we feel a little bit we take pride in it. We take pride in our achievements. We think that we are better than others, and then we are also fond of others praising us. Even we achieve little results, or we do little service. We sometimes feel others should praise us and glorify us, and if others don't meet our expectations, then we are in morose. That means we are in mode of passion. Now, worse than mode of passion is ignorance. Some living entities, like, they cannot control anger. So it's talking about the qualities of ignorance, intolerant anger, stinginess, speaking without scriptural authority, violent hatred, living as a parasite, hypocrisy, chronic fatigue, quarrel, lamentation, delusion, unhappiness, depression, sleeping too much, false expectations, fear and laziness constitute the major qualities of the mode of ignorance. So here it says living as a parasite. One of the qualities of people in mode of ignorance is they are always dependent on others, even for food and shelter. They don't want to work. They always want to sleep. They always want to lie on the bed. And they also have a lot of hatred, and they don't understand any scriptures, and they don't have any quality of charity also, and they have a lot of anger. So these qualities constitute mode of passion. So even though these qualities, these are three independent qualities of the modes of material nature. In most instances, they don't act alone. They are in a mix. They mix with other modes, and then they yield their resultant actions. So now Krishna is talking about how these three modes combine. Here he is saying, Sannipatastvaham iti mameti uddhava yomati vyavahara sannipato mano matendriya asubhi. My dear Uddhava, the combination of all three modes is present in the mentality of I and mine. The ordinary transactions of this world, which are carried out through the agency of the mind, the objects of perception, the senses, and the vital airs of the physical body, are also based on the combination of the modes. You can see in our Vedic literature, especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the concept of aham mamiti is extensively discussed. He's saying the concept of I and mine occurs because of the mixture of the three modes of material nature. A person in mode of goodness may feel I am peaceful. One in passion may think I am lusty. And one in ignorance may think I am angry. One completely absorbed in the mentality of, and similarly, one may think my peace, my lust, or my anger. One completely absorbed in the mentality of being peaceful could not work in the material world. He would lack any impulse to perform activity. Similarly, one absorbed in lust would be blinded without at least a tinge of peacelessness or restraint. One overwhelmed with anger could not function properly in the material world without the mixture of other qualities. Thus, we find that a material mode does not occur in a pure isolated form, but rather is mixed with other modes, and thereby making possible normal functioning within this world. So here again, we can see from the purport that the material modes are mixing. It's not there is only one mode is dominant in completely there in one living entity. These modes can present in three different degrees of variation. One mode could be higher, one mode could be in medium level of influence, and the other mode could be insignificant. So, but these three modes must always are always acting in combination. They are not independently acting alone. And Krishna is saying here, Prabhupada is saying actually, he's saying ultimately one should think that I am an eternal servant of Lord Krishna. So that is the supreme perfection. That is only possible in the pure state of consciousness, beyond the material modes of nature. So then in the next verse, Krishna is saying to Uddhava, Dharmecha artecha kamecha yadasu parinishtitaha gunanam sannikarshoyam shraddharati danavaha. So here, when does a person exhibit the interaction of these three modes of material nature? He says, when a person devotes himself to religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification, the faith, wealth, and sensual enjoyment obtained by his endeavors display the interaction of the three modes of material nature. This is the current situation of the in the material world. You can see that most of them are interested in economic development and sense gratification. Especially if you see in the Western world, there is less religiosity, meaning people going to church, or people going to temples, or people going to synagogues, or people going to any other place of worship is very very minute. But most of them they want economic development, they want to make money, so they keep working like 24/7, and they are interested in sense gratification. Once the money comes, they work hard Monday to Friday, working hard, and then in the weekends, sense gratification, going to pubs, going to dance clubs, going to movie theaters, going to playgrounds, and sense gratification. So it's going on. So wealth and religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification are situated within the modes of nature, and the faith, wealth, and enjoyment obtained by them clearly reveal the particular situation of a person within the modes of nature. Yeah, I don't have much realization on that words, but let's move forward. And in the next verse, Krishna is saying, when a person desires sense gratification, being attached to family life, and when he constantly becomes established in religious and occupational duties, the combination of the modes of nature is manifest. Here we again Krishna is saying similarly what he said in the previous verse. So whenever a man desires sense gratification and he becomes attached to family life, and when he consequently becomes established in religious and occupational duties, here again the religious and occupational duties are emphasized. So at least in the Western world, we see the religious duties are insignificant. But if we go to India, we see people performing various demigods worships, going to temples very frequently, going to dhams very frequently, and we see people hearing pravachans, and we see people fasting on special holidays. We see that. So that means they are established in religious, not only in occupational duties, they are also established in religious duties. And here Krishna is saying, in those circumstances, the combination of the modes of nature is manifest. So according to Sridhara Goswami, religious duties performed for promotion to heaven are understood to be in mode of passion. So let's say people who are performing religious duties for a higher cause, they want to be promoted to heavenly planets. Even Sridhar Goswami is saying, they are in the mode of passion. And those who perform ordinary family life, and those performed to enjoy ordinary family life, are in the mode of ignorance. And sometimes when the religious duties are performed just to enjoy ordinary family life, then that individual is in the mode of ignorance. And those performed selflessly to fulfill one's occupational duty in the varnashrama system are in mode of goodness. So like selflessly engaging in your occupational duty and just being detached and offering the results to Krishna, we can see that there is a prominence of mode of goodness. The Lord has thus explained how mundane religiosity is manifest within the modes of nature. So my realization is, in family life, a person is subjected to all these three modes. So every day, we are subjected to these three modes. Sometimes we are peaceful, sometimes we are angry, sometimes we are in depression, sometimes we are lazy. It's it depends on the on the time of the day and also other factors. So in a family life, one is subjected to all these three modes. But Krishna is saying, but if he worships Lord Krishna, my realization is that if we worship Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu uninterruptedly, we can be situated in the mode of goodness. Then Krishna is explaining about mode of goodness. Purusham sattva samyuktam anumiya shama adibhi kamadibhi rajo yuktam krodadais tamas yutam. A person exhibiting qualities such as self-control is understood to be predominantly in the mode of goodness. Similarly, a passionate person is recognized by his lust, and one in ignorance is recognized by qualities such as anger. Again, so a person in mode of goodness, we can see, is able to control himself. If temptations are there, he is able to control himself. He's not fully controlled by greed and lust. Similarly, a passionate person is recognized by his lust. So here Krishna is saying a passionate person is, you can see that if a person is passionate by his lust. Lust means too much hankering for material achievements and hankering for wealth, hankering for prestige. So lust is the characteristics of lust is attachment to material objects, too much attachment. And one in ignorance is recognized by qualities such as anger. So here one doesn't know what to do and what not to do, what is good and what is bad. He has no motive to achieve anything in life, and is always sleeping, and he's also very angry. So if these things can be seen in a person, we can come to a conclusion that he is in mode of ignorance. Now here in the Bhagavad Gita, the effects of the three modes. What happens if a person is situated in mode of goodness? So if a person is situated in mode of goodness, his results results in purity, and he develops knowledge, and he goes to higher planets. So acquiring knowledge here, it could mean acquiring transcendental knowledge. It could also mean acquiring spiritual knowledge, and then the results are, it results in purity. His actions are pure and his words are pure. He is not confused, and there is no confusion in mode of goodness. And then in mode of passion, whatever we do in mode of passion, they lead us to misery. So we expect something and something else happens. Let's say we worked hard for some examination, right? For some exams, and we work very hard. We work really hard. We don't know what is the results. What are the results? And if the results are not as per our expectation, then we are in misery. So material endeavor, too much material endeavor results in misery. And then he develops greed also. And then greed means greed for wealth, greed for sense gratification, excessive sense gratification. And then he's going from, and then what are the results? Where is he going to go in the next life? He will again come back into the earthly planet. So is constantly roaming from one species to another species within the earthly planet. Now, in ignorance, the result of ignorance is always foolishness, and he becomes a mockery. He becomes an object of mockery, and develops foolishness, as we can see. And then madness. Madness means he thinks he himself is always right. Even if somebody else is wrong, is right, he is not ready to accept that he is wrong. Is completely in madness. Pagal. The word pagal is used in Hindi, right? So we often use that word pagal. So, and then illusion, and is always under illusion. And what are the results of the mode of ignorance? Developing the quality of mode of ignorance is adho gachanti tamasa. He will be pushed into the hellish planetary system. Now, Krishna is saying, how can we recognize a person who is in the mode of goodness? Saying, Yada bhajati mam bhaktya nirapeksha swakarma bhi tam sattva prakritim vidyat purusham striyam evava. Any person, whether man or woman, who worships me with loving devotion, offering his or her prescribed duties onto me without material attachment, is understood to be situated in goodness. He's saying, with loving devotion, if one worships, it can be a man, it can be a woman, if they worship Krishna with loving devotion, not as a ritual. Sometimes we worship Krishna as a ritual. And then offering his or her prescribed duties onto me without material attachment. When we perform duty without any attachment, and also sometimes the results of our fruitive actions, when we give it to Krishna without being attached, it can also be understood to be that person is also understood to be in the mode of goodness. You can see Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. He worked hard for Krishna. He established 108 temples all across the world. But he never enjoyed his results. He gave all of his results to Krishna, offered to Krishna. Whatever money he got, he printed books, and whatever money he got, he established temples. He used everything in the service of Krishna. So we can say actually he's in the mode of pure goodness. And then 11th verse, Yada Ashisha Asasya Mam Bhajeta Swara Karma Bhi Tam Raja Prakritim Vidyat Himsam Ashashaya Tamasam. When a person worships me by his prescribed duties with the hope of gaining material benefit, his nature should be understood in passion. And one who worships me with the desire to commit violence against others is in ignorance. Here again, you see, he's saying even though we may be performing bhakti, we can still be situated in three different modes. Let's say if a person um, is worshipping Krishna, but he is interested in his material benefits, like for example, Dhruva Maharaj. He wanted to worship Krishna, but he wanted some material material results. Like he wanted a kingdom which is more bigger than his father's kingdom. So that is why when he met Narada Maharshi, he said, if I can obtain this result, then I will listen to you. If I don't attain this result after I perform bhakti, then I am not going to perform bhakti. So he's guided by the desire for a result. So bhakti with commission. People when they do bhakti, but they wanted some results, material results or benefits. So that is in um, mode of passion. And sometimes we worship Krishna, but we also commit violence against others. It could be envy, or it could be physically hurting others, or those things constitute those qualities constitute the bhakti that is performed in ignorance. Now here, in like the example that is given of a person who performed his bhakti in the mode of goodness by Lord Kapiladeva, I think to his mother Devahuti, is the example of Prithu Maharaj. He performed his bhakti in complete mode of goodness. He did not want to achieve any material profit or material gain. So again, Dhruva Maharaj example we have given for a person who is in the mode of passion. And interestingly, we also have an example of a person who performed his bhakti in ignorance. It seems Prajapati Daksha, he performed bhakti in the mode of ignorance because he was inimical to a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Okay. Why is his bhakti in mode of ignorance? Because he was very inimical to Lord Shiva, and he was in the sacrifice of Daksha Prajapati. He did not offer respect to Lord Shiva, even though he was expecting Lord Shiva to offer obeisances to him because he has married his daughter to Lord Shiva. Sati was married to Lord Shiva. So he is expecting my son-in-law should give me respect to me. But Shiva is not an ordinary soul. He couldn't realize that. That means he is blinded. So therefore that kind of bhakti where we commit violence and envy to others is definitely in mode of ignorance. And Krishna is saying, what are these three? Does these three modes influence him? Krishna is saying, Sattvam Rajas Tama iti Guna Jivasya Naivame Chitaja Yestu Bhutanam Sajjamano Nivadyate. He's saying the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, influence the living entity, but not me. Here you see carefully. They are created by Krishna. These three modes are created by Krishna, but they are not influencing. Krishna is not influenced by these three modes. So even in the spiritual world, there is no concept of the three modes of material nature. They don't have entrance. These three modes have no entrance to all the spiritual planets, including Vaikuntha and even Goloka Vrindavan. They are within these three modes of material nature act within the material world. So the living entity is the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, having the tendency to be overwhelmed by the Lord's illusory material energy. So we, as a conditioned soul, we are always subjected to influence by the three modes of material nature. That's what Krishna is saying here. The personality of Godhead, however, is the absolute controller of illusion. Illusion can never control the Lord. Thus, Lord Sri Krishna is the eternal object of service for all living beings who are eternally servants of the Lord. As you can see here, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, we see that Krishna was not put into ignorance. Krishna was not subjected to ignorance. It was Arjuna who was put into ignorance temporarily. So that means there is a distinction between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. Again, the three modes of material nature manifest within the material energy. When a conditioned soul adopts a material mentality, the modes exert their influence within the jurisdiction of that mentality. But if one purifies one's mind in the devotional service of the Lord, the modes of nature can no longer act upon him, since they have no influence on the spiritual platform. Here again, as long as we don't perform devotional service, we are influenced by these three modes. So as soon as one takes up devotional service, we can see that once a practitioner performs bhakti, his mind becomes peaceful, his mind becomes calm, and we also see that he is not subjected to too much anger, and also he is not subjected to too much illusion. When the word overwhelming is used here, right? Examples of overwhelming, like what the examples of overwhelming, like sometimes fear overcomes our mind. Let's say we wanted to go in the dark, right? Let's say, and we see a snake, and we see a rope. So we went for a nature call in the middle of the night outside. This happens in India all the time. And sometimes we see a rope, and then we get fearful. We become fearful, and we get scared, and then we don't act rationally in those circumstances. Another example is from wars. The example of overwhelming. Sometimes we hear one superpower could subjugate the enemy by overwhelming the opponent in a war. So these three modes can overwhelm the living entity only. They cannot overwhelm the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Now, he's talking about mode of goodness. What does what happens when mode of goodness is predominant in a living entity or a person? Editarau yedetarau jayet satvam Bhaswaram Vishadam Shivam Tada Sukena Yujyeta Dharmajnanadibi Puman. Krishna is saying, when the mode of goodness, here Bhaswaram means luminous, Vishadam, Shivam, Vishadam means pure and auspicious, predominates over passion and ignorance, a man becomes endowed with happiness, virtue, knowledge, and other good qualities. So we can see this in senior devotees or who have been performing bhakti for a long time. They are self-luminous. You can see them. Prabhupada's face was so brilliant, when some of the reporters, when Srila Prabhupada came to the West, they said, "Your Guru Maharaj is glowing." So glowing means like his face is shining. It's like luminous, bhaswaram, and is also we can see purity in him, vishadam. And anybody who comes in contact with a pure devotee, his life becomes auspicious. So in mode of goodness, we see that these qualities, good qualities we can see, luminous, pure, and auspiciousness, and they predominate over passion and ignorance. And in that state, he attains happiness, and he also has knowledge and other good qualities like Kshama, Damas, Tapa, Saucham, Arjavam. And what happens when mode of passion becomes prominent? Yada jayet tama sattvam rajasangam vida kalchalam tada dukkena yujyeta karmana yashasha sriya. When the mode of passion, which causes attachment, separatism, and activity, conquers ignorance and goodness, a man begins to work hard to acquire prestige and fortune. Thus, in the mode of passion, he experiences anxiety and struggle. Here we can see in the mode of passion, we have too much attachment for the results of work. We don't want to let go of the results. We are constantly worried about the results of our work. And in that state, we work very, very hard. Let's say in Silicon Valley, we see people working 12 hours a day. I mean, some people I have seen initially in 2000, they are working for 14 hours a day. Like everybody is working very hard. So they want to acquire fortune. They want to acquire wealth. They want to be millionaires. So, and then, but are they happy? No, Krishna says they are not at all happy. In the mode of passion, they experience anxiety and struggle. So even in movie industry, we have examples of Hollywood and Bollywood where they work hard, they want to earn money, and then once they also want to acquire prestige and fortune, but sometimes the results are not as per their expectation, and they become very disturbed and they resort to intoxication. So he's explaining a little bit more what happens to people in mode of passion. Krishna is saying, Vikurvan kriyayacha, there, anivrittascha chetasam, gatra avastayam mano bhrantam, raja etair nishamaya. Translation: you should discern the mode of passion by its symptoms, the distortion of the intelligence because of too much activity, the inability of perceiving senses to disentangle themselves from mundane objects, an unhealthy condition of working physical organs, and the unsteady perplexity of the mind. So again, this Krishna is a little bit explaining more about the mode of passion. What happens to living entity in the mode of passion, or a person in the mode of passion? He's saying there is no clear intelligence here. The intelligence is distorted. Why the intelligence is distorted? You have too many tasks to perform. You have too many activities to perform. You have too many goals to achieve. And obviously, you feel terrified if you may not be able to meet your expectations. And also his senses are not able to disentangle, he cannot disentangle his senses from mundane objects. Um, so like drinking, or maybe sense gratification, or maybe other objects, so material objects. And his even physical organs are also not healthy in that situation. When one works daily 14 hours or more than what is required for maintaining body and soul, his health is also not in good condition. And also the mind is always in this unsteady perplexity of mind. There is no purport on this, but I want to share my realization on this. Before I came to Krishna conscious, I was in always perplexity. My mind was always fixed with anxiety, basically. One calamity after another, and one problem after another. So, so, and I don't know how to solve them. There was no guru, no instructions from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, no association of devotees to uplift my consciousness. Um, and I'm also surrounded by people who are already who they themselves are in mode of passion and ignorance. And how can they uplift my consciousness? So it is an impossible task. So, but if a guru comes into your life, or if a devotee comes into your life, or if you start reading Bhagavad Gita, or if you start reading Srimad Bhagavatam, then you can attain some peace, and one, and you can also be able to uplift your consciousness. I've seen many cases even in my life where people are so perplexed with anxiety because they're not able to mitigate those anxieties, and they have taken intoxication. Many of them in my college, they took up intoxication, and I've seen some in some extreme cases where people ended up their lives. So that is also a possibility if you are too much attached to mode of passion. Uh, Now, and Krishna is explaining more about ignorance here. Siddhachittam viliyeta chetaso grahane akshamam manonashtam tamo glanis tamastad upadharaya. Translation: when one's higher awareness fails and finally disappears, and one is thus unable to concentrate his attention, his mind is ruined and manifests ignorance and depression. You should understand this situation to be in the predominance of the mode of ignorance. So we have discussed more about mode of goodness and passion in previous verses. Now Krishna is saying, what happens to a person if he is in mode of ignorance? He says he has no ability to concentrate. You can see people in classrooms, right? I've seen people, they come and sit in the classroom, but they are not able to focus on the subject. They are not able to focus their minds on what the teacher is saying or what the professor is saying. So why is that happening? Because they are not able to concentrate their minds. They are too much disturbed. You should understand the situation to be in the mode of ignorance. And also one of the symptoms of this ignorance is depression. Too much depression means they don't have any hope for life. They're completely bewildered about future. They're completely bewildered about their present situation, and they lose their awareness. I mean, situational awareness around themselves. I have seen cases where the pilots are unable to concentrate on their situation because of what happens in the sky during the time of accidents, and then they are not able to function properly. And instead of taking good steps to take the control of the aeroplane and taking the plane to the destination, they end up crashing the plane. So these are dangerous symptoms of ignorance and also passion. I mean, too much passion also leads to ignorance. Now, Krishna is saying, um, what happens um, to to living entities who are situated in goodness, and what happens to living entities who are situated in passion, and what happens to living entities who are situated in ignorance. विदधि एदमाने गुणे सत्वे देवानां बलम येदते असुराणां च राजसी tamasi uddava rakshasam. So with the increase of mode of goodness, the strength of the demigods similarly increases. When passion increases, the demoniac becomes strong. And with the rise of ignorance, O Uddhava, the strength of the most wicked increases. Examples we can see, um, I mean, when the mode of goodness becomes strong, then we can see it saying, giving the examples of the demigods. The strength of the demigods increases. Krishna is giving the example of the demigods here. And in the mode of passion, the demonic becomes strong. Sometimes we see in the Puranas, we see the battle between the demigods and the Rakshasas. When the mode of goodness is strong, we see demigods winning, and when the mode of passion is strong, we see the demoniac winning. We have many instances in our Puranas. And with the rise of ignorance, O Uddhava, the strength of the most wicked increases. And with the rise of ignorance, the strength of the wicked. So we can see that the wicked people could also be, I mean, their wicked activities can also increase with the mode of ignorance. The examples are, sometimes you can see criminals hatching plans to fulfill their nefarious activities and end up succeeding them because they are wicked. Like for example, theft, or maybe material examples of killing an opponent. You see this in underworld always happening. But these wicked, eventually the law catches them. Even in Mahabharata, you see we have the example of Shakuni, who was so wicked, he and some of his wicked friends like Dushasana and Duryodhana killed an unarmed Abhimanyu. See, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, there are some codes for the battle. You cannot kill a person who is unarmed. It is against the code of conduct of a battle. So the Duryodhana's party agreed to these conditions, and then they started the war. But when they started realizing that they are going to lose the battle of Kurukshetra, they killed Abhimanyu mercilessly, and when he was unarmed. So that is the nature of a wicked person. Prabhu, should I take any questions now or should I continue my slides?
So Prabhu, you can continue the slides, but I don't see any
I have few
questions.
more
So
slides. I'll
two
try
more
to
slides.
finish it.
Okay, yeah, you please go ahead then, and then after
Few more
that you can
slides.
take questions.
Uh, and then, how do I go to the previous one? Satvat Jagaranam Vidyat Rajasa Swapnam Adishet Praswapam Tamasa Jantus Turiyam Trishu Santatam. Here is talking about, Krishna is talking about a fourth state of consciousness. It seems that it should be understood that alert wakefulness comes from the mode of goodness, sleep with dreaming from the mode of passion, and a deep dreamless sleep from the mode of ignorance. So the fourth state of consciousness pervades these three and is transcendental. Turiyam Trishu Santatam. Turiyam Trishu. And then that's what Santatam is transcendental. I think our Krishna consciousness exists eternally within the soul. Okay. I think this is a little bit hard for me to understand, but I just have to go by what Krishna is saying here. Our original Krishna consciousness exists eternally within the soul, and it is also present in all the three phases of awareness, normal, namely normal wakefulness, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. Being covered by the modes of nature, this spiritual consciousness may not be manifest, but it continues to exist eternally as in real nature of the living entity. So basically, in all our literature, right, it says um, it's it's um, it's dormant. The spiritual consciousness is dormant. It is not awakened. I think that is what is Krishna is talking about here, and it exists outside of mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, and it is exists eternally as the real nature of the living entity. So when we talk about spiritual body, um, I mean, this is what Krishna is referring here. We talk about spiritual body and we talk about spiritual balance, and whatever bhakti we perform, it goes into our spiritual account. Okay, so here the next three verses are talking about what happens to people who are situated in mode of goodness, and who are situated in mode of passion, and who are situated in mode of ignorance. Even though he said previously in previous verses, he again repeated their destinations here, maybe for more understanding. Upari upari gachanti satvena brahmana janaha tamasadoda mukyat rajasantara charina. Translation: learned persons dedicated to Vedic literature are elevated by the mode of goodness to higher and higher planets. The mode of ignorance, on the other hand, forces one to all fall fall headfirst into lower and lower births, and by the mode of passion, one continues transmigrating through human bodies. Here clearly is saying upari upari, higher and higher, gachanti, who satvena brahmana jana, those who are situated in the mode of goodness. Here, those who follow um, the Vedic life and who are situated in mode of goodness, they go higher and higher to higher planetary systems. And then those who are situated in ignorance, what happens? They fall head first into lower and lower births. And by the mode of passion, one continues through transmigrating through human bodies. In the Rajasa Antaracharina. Antaracharina means within the middle planetary system. Antara, within the middle planetary systems. Charina means they are transmigrating from one species to another species. Okay. So then here, what happens to the people who live in mode of goodness? It says, Satve pralina swarayanti naralokam rajolayah tamaso layastu nirayam yanti mam yeva nirguna. Those who leave this world in the mode of goodness go to the heavenly planets. Those who pass away in the mode of passion remain in the world of human beings. And those dying in the mode of ignorance must go to hell. But those who are free from the influence of all modes of nature come to me. Here clearly is saying those who are situated in mode of goodness, they go to higher planetary system. And those who are situated in mode of passion, they remain within the world of human beings. And those who die in the mode of goodness, in the mode of ignorance, must go to hell. And Krishna is saying, but those who are free from the influence of all these three modes will come to me. Right? In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says a similar words in chapter number 14, in verse number 18. Urdhvam gacchante satvata madhye tishtanti rajasaha jaganna vruttasta adho gachanti tamasa. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets. And those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to hellish worlds. Same, almost very similar words. Here then, Madarpanam Nishphalam, about the fruits of the activities in these three modes. Krishna is talking about what happens to the fruits of their activities. Madarpanam Nishphalam va Satvikam Nija Karmatat Rajasam Phala Sankalpam Himsa Prayadi Tamasam. Work performed as an offering to me without consideration of the fruit is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Okay, we have seen that in several verses, right? Without a consideration of the fruit. We are not worried about the fruit. Whatever fruits we get from our occupational duties, when we as an offering to Krishna, as an offering to me means Krishna, is to be considered in the mode of goodness. But work performed with a desire to enjoy the results is in the mode of passion. And work impelled by violence and envy is in the mode of ignorance. So it's very, very, very clear, right? And in the mode of passion, the fruity worker is has a tremendous desire to enjoy the results. Now, in the mode of ignorance, we have seen people are very overtaken by violence and envy. They don't care about results. They just want to commit violence, and they're always envy of somebody else, and they always want to inflict violence on others. That is significantly a quality of mode of ignorance. Now here Krishna is in verse number 24, Krishna is talking about knowledge. Knowledge can also be in three different modes. Kaivalyam Satvikam Jnanam Rajo Vaikalpikam Chayat Prakrutam Tamasam Jnanam Manishtam Nirgunam Smrutam. Translation: Krishna is saying absolute knowledge is in the mode of goodness. When you say absolute knowledge, means spiritual knowledge here. right? There is knowledge. Material knowledge is also there. Materialistic knowledge is there. It is in the mode of goodness. And then there is knowledge in the mode of passion. Means it is based on duality. Me and you. Such knowledge is in the which is based on the dualities like good and bad, day and night. All these dualities, a man and a woman. All that knowledge is in the mode of passion. And materialistic knowledge, um, um, like for example, the example given, one fixes. Okay, in the materialistic knowledge is completely based on the mind and sense objects. I mean, there is no higher awareness. At least in mode of passion, one acquires the scientific knowledge of the material body. Um, and in the material mode of goodness, the knowledge makes you perform pious and religious activities. That is absolute knowledge. It is not based on body, or it is not based on dualities of this material world. And here Krishna is here. Srila Prabhupada says, just like a small child, right? He doesn't have any ignorance. He doesn't have. I mean, he doesn't have any knowledge. He's completely naive, and he doesn't have the knowledge of this material world, the working knowledge. So he's also given example of a retarded person. A retarded person is mentally retarded. They are in completely ignorance. Now Krishna is talking about, in verse number 25th, he's talking about residences. Vanam tu satviko vaso, gramo rajasa uchate, tamasam dhyuta sadanam, manniketanam to nirgunam. Translation: residence in the forest is in the mode of goodness. Residence in a town is in the mode of passion. Residence in gambling house displays the quality of ignorance. And residence in a place where I reside is transcendental. This is very much clear. We can say forest. Forest is residence in the forest. Krishna is saying is in the mode of goodness, like Vrindavan forests, or in ancient India we have several forests, right? Naimisharanya, the forests of Naimisharanya, and then there were several forests below the Himalayan mountain range. So whoever Badrikashram, so that kind of residence is in the mode of goodness. Now residence in a town like big cities, like Bombay, then Calcutta, Delhi, San Francisco, New York City, then all the London, all these big cities is in mode of passion. And then, interestingly, Krishna is saying one who resides in a gambling house. He's saying Dita Sadanam. Sadanam means residence. Such residence is in mode of ignorance. Here examples are pool halls, race tracks, poker clubs, bars, and other sinful places that maintain an abysmal level of consciousness are in mode of ignorance. But temple, Krishna's temple, is Mat Niketanam, is situated in is pure goodness. It's transcendental. And residence in a place where I reside is transcendental, nirguna. No material modes. So two more verses, I will finish. Then it's talking about food. In verse number 28, Krishna is talking about food. It's saying Patayam Putam Anayashtam Aharyam Satvikam Smrutam Rajasam Chendriyaha Preshtam Tamasam Charti Dasuchi. Asuchi. Food that is wholesome, pure and obtained without difficulty is in the mode of goodness. Food that gives immediate pleasure to the senses is in the mode of passion. And food that is unclean and causes distress is in the mode of ignorance. Same thing. It is it is almost same to what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita chapter number 17, verse number 8. Krishna says, foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life. We see some people who live for 100 years, it is quite possible because they eat healthy food and they eat good foods, and some of those foods are juices, and then wholesome and pleasing to the heart. Fatty means like ghee. And what do? They purify one's existence, and they give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Sometimes we see, when you eat good food, you are satisfied, tushti, satisfied. Now, 17.9 Bhagavad Gita also says bitter foods that are bitter, too sour, passion, and that are in passion, foods that are in mode of passion. Salt, too much salty food, dry and burning, too bitter, they are in mode of passion. Such food cause distress, misery, and disease. And then food that is prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consists of remnants and untouchable things is very dear to. Talking about meat here, meat eating. Consisting of remnants and untouchable things. Yeah. Now, happiness also in 3 modes. Satvikam Sukham Atmottam, Vishayottam to Rajasam, Tamasam Mohodainyottam, Nirgunam Madapashrayam. Here Krishna is saying happiness derived from the self is in the mode of goodness. Happiness based on sense gratification is in the mode of passion, and happiness based on delusion and degradation is in the mode of ignorance. But that happiness found within me is transcendental. I have 2 more slides, just 2 more slides. Please bear with me. So here, happiness derived from sense gratification. Example, movies, right? We watch movies, TV shows, watching cricket, games, etc., etc. They're all in mode of passion. Okay, and then we see some people are happy by chemical abstinence. Where we can see that in Western world, especially substances like methane and LSD. They are definitely it gives temporary happiness, but that happiness is in the mode of ignorance. And then we see when we go to the temple, we derive happiness in chanting, dancing, and feasting Krishna Prasad. That kind of happiness is in the mode of goodness. Now here Krishna is saying all these 3 modes. What happens to these 3 modes and how we can conquer these 3 modes? Krishna is giving a solution. We have talked about various 3 modes and how to control these 3 modes. Krishna is giving a method here. Etaha samshrutyaha pumso guna karma nibandhana yeneme nirjita saumya guna jivena chittaja bhakti yogena man nishto madbhavaya prabhatyade. O gentle Uddhava, all these different phases of conditional life arise from work born of the modes of material nature. The living entity who conquers these modes manifested from the mind can dedicate himself to me by the process of devotional service and thus attain pure love for me. You can see the words Mad Bhavaya Prabhatyate indicates the attainment of love for God or of the same state of existence as that of Supreme Lord. Actual liberation is residence within the eternal kingdom of God, where life is full of bliss and knowledge. So the eternal happiness, every living entity should endeavor for that eternal happiness. And Krishna is saying that eternal happiness is available only in the eternal kingdom of God, in the spiritual world. He is saying that is not possible in the material world at all. So I skipped one verse. Basically, it's talking about faith now, and in the last verse of this slide, Krishna says, "Tasmad deham imam labdva jnana vijnana sambhavam gunasangam vinurduya mam bhajantu vichakshanaha." Krishna is telling Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, you have achieved this human form of life. Only in the human form of life one can develop full knowledge. And then those who are intelligent should free themselves from all the contaminations of the modes of material nature and exclusively engage in loving service to Krishna. And again, we see a similar verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, verse number 26. Mamcha yoga vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaityan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Again, one who wants to transcend these three modes, right? What is he supposed to do? He's supposed to perform full devotional service. Unconditional, avyabhicharena, means no conditions. Oh, I will do bhakti only if I get this, if I buy a big house in Silicon Valley. I will perform devotional service only if I have a job, and all these conditions, no conditions, avyabhicharena. And only in those circumstances one can transcend the modes of material nature and thus come to the level of Brahman. Brahman means Krishna. Again, I think this is the last verse actually. Sorry. And then, how do you become binirmukto? I mean, from these three modes. How to? Is Krishna is giving one more tip here. Freed from the jivo jiva binirmukto gunayas chasyaha sambhavai maya eva brahmana purno na bahirantas antaras charet. Freed from the subtle conditioning of the mind and from the modes of nature born of material consciousness, the living entity becomes completely satisfied by experiencing transcendental form. He no longer searches for enjoyment in the external energy, nor does he contemplate or remember such enjoyment within himself. Here he is saying, what is the perfection of the human life? The perfection of the human life is to become fully satisfied in bhakti. And then through unalloyed devotional service, one becomes completely satisfied. And he is also experiencing the transcendental form of the Lord. This kind of happiness is not imaginary, the philosophers keep on saying Brahma Saukyam, but that Brahma Saukyam it's imaginary. But here it's not imaginary. We are completely satisfied experiencing the transcendental form of the Lord. When we go to the temple, we see the deity of Krishna and we become satisfied. We pray obeisances to the Lord, we become satisfied. We sing for the Lord, we become satisfied. All these things make us, give us spiritual happiness. And that is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. Become my devotee. Worship Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says many times in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Bhakti, perform Krishna Bhakti. And one of the verses I can quote is Bharata Bhumite Hoile Manisha Janma Yara Janma Sardhaka Kore Karo Pukare. Alright? So with this, this slideshow comes to an end. Sorry for taking too much time. I mean, I went extra 10 minutes. If anybody has any questions, comments, please feel free to.
Haribol Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I don't see any questions or comments online. I just see, I think one Mataji is there here. I don't know if she wants to ask any question or provide any comments, but I would like to say that although you went a little bit over time, but this was good actually. I mean, how we can compare the 25th chapter of 11th canto Bhagavatam and the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Right? In 11th canto, it is much more detailed than what we
Yes.
have in the 14th, because in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna was in little bit of hurry there, because Arjuna was in confusion during the battle, right? In the middle of the battlefield. But there, Lord Krishna was in a much more relaxed state when he was talking to Uddhava. So he was talking in much more details to Uddhava. Thank you for this summary and even sharing your realizations also in these verses.
I would like to thank for this opportunity to Vaisheshika Prabhu and Dakla Mataji and several other similar devotees who gave me this opportunity, like Sri Gopal Prabhu and Ansapriya Mataji, Srivas Thakur Prabhu. I'm very much indebted to all of them for giving me this opportunity. Do we conclude here or will we perform any?
No, I think we can just close now. You can just stop sharing the screen and we'll close. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha
Prakasantidev cha Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
श्री तड़िया सेवा प्रभु की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय,
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you devotees for taking time from your busy schedule and joining this online Wednesday session. In this online Wednesday session, we'll meet again next week. Thank you. Hari Bol.